This is a video lesson for Module 1, Lesson 8. The Lesson 8 learning target is I can round multi-digit whole numbers to any place value using a vertical number line. So we're going to be building on our knowledge of rounding numbers, except for this lesson, we are going to be able to round to any place value rather than the previous lesson, which was just rounding to the thousands place. So let's go ahead and jump into our first example. Our first problem we're going to look at, we're going to be rounding 72,744 to the nearest 10,000s place. So we're going to first start out by looking at which digit is in the 10,000s place of the number we're rounding. So if we take a look here, it is a 7. So that means there's 7 10,000s in this number. This helps us determine the lower number we might round to. We just make it 70,000 because that would be the closest 10,000 that is below this number. And then if we add 10,000 to this number, we would be at 80,000. And since the gap between the low number here and the high number up here is 10,000, the midpoint would be 75,000 or 5,000 between the two. So now that I have my upper limit and my lower limit and my midpoint, I can plot my original number up here on this vertical number line and see if I'm going to be rounding down or up. So 72,000 is going to be lower than 75,000. It'll fall right about here on the number line. And since it's lower than this midpoint right here, I know I'm going to be rounding down, which means I'm going to round to 70,000. So rounding 72,744 to the nearest 10,000 is 70,000. Take a look at another example here. In this problem, we're going to be rounding 337,601, again to the nearest 10,000. A little bit trickier in this problem because we have a 6-digit number rather than a 5-digit number like the previous problem. So our 10,000s place is actually in the middle of the thousands right here. It's this 3, which I've just underlined. So if we think about that, there really are 33 10,000s. It's kind of a hard thing to think about, but I'm essentially thinking of this number as 33 10,000s. So the 33 being these two numbers right here. And so that helps me determine the lower end of the nearest 10,000 on my vertical number line. So it will be 33 10,000s, which is the same as 330,000. So I pretty much took whatever was to the right of the 10,000s place and made all of these digits zeros. And then the upper limit, I'm just going to add 10,000 to this bottom number. And so if I added 10,000 to 33,000s, I'm going to get 34,000s, which is the same as 340,000. So the midpoint between the two would be 5,000 more than this bottom number. So I have 335,000 as my midpoint. So now I need to determine where this number falls on the number line to see if I'm going to round up or down. And if I plot that number on the number line, it's going to fall right above 335,000. And since it's above this midpoint right here, I know I'm going to be rounding up to the next highest 10,000, which is 340,000. So I know when I'm rounding 337,601 to the nearest 10,000, I get 340,000 as my answer. So let's take a look at one more example here. In this example, we're going to be rounding to the nearest 100,000, so a different place value on this problem, but we're going to use the same process to help us answer this problem. We're going to take a look at our number, 749,085, and let's look at which digit is in the 100,000s place. In this case, it's this 7. So just like before, I'm going to be turning all of these numbers that are to the right of the 7 into zeros, and that's going to help me determine my lower value of my vertical number line. So that means that the closest 100,000 that is below my number is 700,000. And the closest 100,000 that is above my number right up here is going to be 100,000 more than this, so that's going to be 800,000. So being able to add 100,000 to my bottom number is an important skill to have. Then I know that since the gap between the top here and the bottom here is 100,000, I know that the midpoint will be 50,000 from the bottom, so I simply just add the 50,000 to the bottom number, and I get 750,000. So now I just need to plot my number, my original number in the problem up here, and see where it falls on my number line. And if I look, it's going to be right below. It's really, really close, but it's going to be right below that midpoint. And since it's right below that midpoint, it is actually closer to the 700,000. So I'm going to be rounding down. So this number right here, rounded to the nearest 100,000, is going to be 700,000. So using these skills, it gets us to the point where we're able to do something which is really, really helpful in math, which is to estimate for addition and subtraction. And so I'm going to show you how you can use this rounding skill to help estimate and find an approximate answer for a addition sentence that has some pretty big numbers here. So I'm going to estimate the sum of 505,341 and 193,841. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to find a nice friendly number by rounding for both of these numbers, and I'm going to add those rather than taking the time to add all of these individual place values up. So I'm going to round 505,341 to the nearest 100,000. And by looking at this number, I could tell that this number is approximately 500,000. So that's the closest 100,000 is 500,000. I'm going to do the same thing with the second number, round it to the next or the closest 100,000. And 193,000 I know is really close to 200,000. So now that I've rounded both of these numbers to the nearest 100,000, it's really easy for me to add 500,000 plus 200,000. So I know the answer to this problem right up here is approximately 700,000. Now, why is this helpful? Well, if I were to add these two numbers and I got something that was in like the 3,000s, I know that I would have made a mistake somewhere because my estimate told me that it should be around 700,000. So if my actual answer is really far away from my estimate, I know I've made a mistake somewhere along the line. So that does it for lesson 8. We talked about rounding to any place value using a vertical number line and how we can use rounding to help us estimate the sum of an addition sentence. So at this point, you should be ready to handle all the problems in the lesson 8 problem set. But of course, as always, if you get stuck or need a refresher, you can come back and watch any part of the video and get some help. So thanks for watching, and good luck on the problem set.